должны сказать «нет войне». Мы должны сказать «хватит маразму». Мы должны сказать «Россия и Украина без Путина». Россия и Украина без Путина.
Friday night, just after 11 p.m. 3 minutes earlier, Boris Nemtsov was shot dead on a bridge near the Kremlin.
Thousands of mourners and dignitaries paid their respects to Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov.
On February 27, 2015, Russian opposition leader and harsh Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov was assassinated on Moscow's Bolshoi Moskvoretsky Bridge. His murder shocked Russia and the whole world, causing widespread outrage and confirming fears about the threats faced by opposition leaders in Russia. Nemtsov's murder wasn't just a tragic loss, it was a harsh reminder of Russia's political climate, where opposition is met with severe repercussions. Boris Nemtsov was born in Sochi, Russia on October 9, 1959. A trained physicist, he entered politics in the late 1980s during the final years of the Soviet Union. His rapid rise as a reformist leader led him to be elected as governor of Nizhny Novgorod in the 1990s.
The Russian people are getting used to a new force in their country's politics, the Deputy Prime Minister Boris Nemtsov.
Nemtsov was considered a rising liberal voice in post-Soviet Russia, advocating for democracy, free enterprise, and transparent governance. During President Boris Yeltsin's rule, Nemtsov held key government positions, including serving as Deputy Prime Minister. At one point, he was even seen as a potential successor to Yeltsin. However, as Vladimir Putin consolidated power, Nemtsov fell out of favor and moved into the opposition. As opposition politics in Russia became increasingly dangerous, Nemtsov remained a vocal critic, despite the growing risks. Nemtsov dedicated his activism to exposing corruption within the Russian government. He played a key role in protests against election fraud, the annexation of Crimea, and the persecution of political dissidents. In the years leading up to his assassination, he was working on a report about Russian military involvement in Ukraine, an issue the Kremlin wanted to keep under wraps. He was no stranger to danger. Throughout his political career, Nemtsov faced harassment, arrest, and smear campaigns. He knew the risk of opposing Putin's government, but refused to back down. In one of his last interviews before his murder, he admitted that he feared for his life, but remained determined to speak out. On February 27, 2015, Nemtsov was walking across the Bolshoi Moskvoretsky Bridge, just steps from the Kremlin, alongside his girlfriend, Ukrainian model Anna Duritskaya. As they strolled through the cold Moscow night, a white car pulled up. Suddenly, gunshots shattered the silence. Nemtsov was shot 4 times in the back and collapsed on the bridge, while the assailants sped away. Duritskaya, though physically unharmed, was left in shock. Within minutes, the area was swarming with police and security forces. The timing and location of the attack were highly symbolic. Nemtsov was assassinated just days before he was set to lead an anti-government rally. The boldness of the crime, carried out in one of Moscow's most heavily surveilled areas, suggests that the perpetrators felt completely untouchable. Following Nemtsov's assassination, Russian authorities launched an investigation. 5 men from Chechnya were arrested and charged with his murder, including Tsar Dadayev, a former officer in a Chechen security battalion. Prosecutors claimed that the suspects had been promised financial rewards for carrying out the hit. While the trial resulted in convictions, many remained skeptical that true justice had been served. Critics pointed out that those who ordered the killing were never identified or prosecuted. The fact that individuals with ties to Chechnya were involved raised questions about whether powerful figures within Russia had orchestrated the hit. However, no definitive evidence ever emerged. Nemtsov's allies were convinced that his murder was a political assassination designed to silence dissent. His death sent a chilling warning to opposition figures. Speaking out against the Kremlin could be a death sentence. The murder of Boris Nemtsov triggered international condemnation. Leaders from the United States, the European Union, and human rights organizations demanded a thorough investigation. Tens of thousands of people attended his funeral, marching through Moscow in a rare public demonstration against the government. Despite his assassination, Nemtsov's legacy endures. His reports exposing corruption and human rights abuses continue to inspire activists. In 2018, a section of the street outside the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C. was renamed Boris Nemtsov Plaza in his honor. Opposition figures, including Alexei Navalny, have cited Nemtsov as a major influence in their fight against Putin's rule. Memorials dedicated to Nemtsov have been established in multiple countries, ensuring that his name and mission are not forgotten. Nemtsov's assassination was not an isolated event. It was part of a broader pattern in Russian politics. Over the years, numerous journalists, activists, and political opponents have met similar fates. The assassination of figures like Anna Politkovskaya and Alexander Litvinenko serve as grim reminders of the dangers of opposing the Kremlin. His murder also highlighted the growing difficulties faced by Russia's pro-democracy movement. In a country where opposition is systematically suppressed, the fight for transparency and human rights has become increasingly difficult. State-controlled media play a major role in shaping public perception, often branding critics as traitors or foreign agents. The official version of Boris Nemtsov's assassination left more questions than answers, fueling speculation and uncertainty. While 5 men with ties to Chechnya were convicted for carrying out the killing, many believe they were merely hired hitmen. While the true masterminds, the individuals or organizations that ordered the murder, have never been identified or prosecuted. This lack of accountability has only intensified suspicions about who was truly behind the assassination and why Nemtsov was targeted at that specific moment. One prevailing theory is that Nemtsov's murder was a calculated warning to Russia's opposition. He was killed just days before he was set to lead a major anti-government protest and had been working on a report exposing Russia's military involvement with Ukraine, an issue the Kremlin was eager to suppress. The timing suggests his assassination was not an impulsive act of violence, but a premeditated strike designed to silence one of Putin's most vocal critics. Another important detail is that Nemtsov was not just a dissident. He was a well-connected former government official with insider knowledge of the Russian political system. His credibility made him a serious threat to those in power. Unlike other opposition figures who had been sidelined or exiled, Nemtsov had a reputation as a reformer and a direct link to the Yeltsin-era government, which had once considered him a potential successor to the presidency. Eliminating him sent a clear message. Even high-profile opposition figures were not untouchable. The location of the attack, on the Bolshoi-Moskvoretsky Bridge, just steps away from the Kremlin, raises even more red flags. This area is one of the most heavily surveilled parts of Moscow, with constant police patrols and security cameras. How can an assassination take place there without immediate intervention? Some reports suggest that several security cameras in the area were either turned off or malfunctioning at the time of the murder. If true, this would suggest an alarming level of complicity or foreknowledge among authorities. Was security deliberately weakened that night to facilitate the hit? Additionally, Nemtsov was shot in the back, a method commonly associated with professional assassinations rather than personal disputes or random street violence. His killers also managed to escape in a car, despite the bridge's proximity to government buildings and law enforcement. The swift execution and clean getaway strongly indicate that this was a well-organized operation, possibly with state backing or at least tacit approval. Adding to the intrigue is the suspicious handling of the investigation. Russian authorities quickly arrested and convicted 5 Chechen men, but critics argued that this was a convenient resolution that failed to address the most crucial question: who ordered the hit? The involvement of Chechen operatives have fueled speculation about whether high-ranking figures within the Russian government or Chechen leadership played a role. Ramzan Kadyrov, the Kremlin-backed leader of Chechnya, publicly praised Zardadiev, the convicted gunman, calling him a true patriot. This only deepened suspicions that the assassination was carried out on behalf of powerful figures within the Russian state, possibly as a favor to the Kremlin. Furthermore, Dadiev initially confessed to the crime but later retracted his statement, claiming it had been obtained through torture. Other suspects also claim they were coerced into giving false testimonies. If true, this raises serious doubts about whether the real masterminds were ever investigated, or if the entire trial was a cover-up to divert attention from those truly responsible. Years after the murder, key questions remained unanswered. Why did security cameras in the area reportedly fail at the exact moment of the murder? How did the assassins escape so easily in one of the most guarded parts of Moscow? Why were only low-level operatives convicted while the real masterminds were never pursued? Nemtsov's murder was not an isolated incident. It fits into a broader pattern of political killings in modern Russia. Over the years, numerous journalists, activists, and opposition figures have met violent ends under suspicious circumstances. The assassination of figures like Anna Politkovskaya and Alexander Litvinenko serve as grim reminders of the dangers of opposing the Kremlin. The failure to uncover the full truth behind Nemtsov's murder reinforces a chilling message. Dissent is not tolerated at the highest levels of power. In Russia's political system, those who speak out against corruption and authoritarianism do so at their own peril. Even though Nemtsov's physical presence was silenced, his assassination has made him a symbol of resistance, proof that the fight for democracy in Russia remains as urgent as ever. Boris Nemtsov's assassination remains one of the most shocking political killings in modern Russian history. It underscored the lethal dangers faced by those who dare to challenge authoritarian regimes. While the official investigation led to convictions, many key questions remain unanswered. Was Nemtsov's murder a meticulously planned political hit? Did powerful figures within Russia orchestrate it? And most importantly, what does his assassination reveal about the state of political freedom in Russia today? Nemtsov's death was meant to silence him. Instead, it immortalized him as a symbol of defiance. His legacy continues to inspire those fighting for democracy in Russia and beyond. Even in death, Boris Nimsov remains a beacon of hope for those who refuse to be silenced. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest investigations.